welcome to episode 84 of the David Uosikkinen in the Pocket podcast.
We're getting old.
You look like you're thinking. Are you trying to come up with an eagle?
With an eagle? Actually, no, but 84 has got to be a wide receiver. Right?
Well, if you go back to the first Super Bowl team, you had Keith Krefley. Remember Keith Krefley?
Oh, sure I
tight
do.
End.
Sure I do.
And then if you are like Bravado.
And he played with Spags, though, right?
Yeah,
Spags
they were the two
right,
tight ends
right.
on that team.
Yeah.
And if you like Bravado, you can go Freddie Mitchell.
Freddie Mitchell, of course. Fur coat Freddie.
Yeah, right. What was it? God gave me these hands, or I love these hands, something like that. Yeah.
Well, thank God for him. I remember that Green Bay game.
Yeah, thank God for my hands. Or
what was
something.
that? 4th and 26.
4th and 26.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then
God bless Freddie.
and we got Greg Ward on the current team. So
I like that guy a lot.
there you go.
He's good.
Hey, it's also a shout out, a birthday shout out to one of your bandmates, John Lilly's.
John Lilly's birthday
John Lilly's
today.
birthday. Happy birthday, John.
He's 25 today.
Doesn't look a day over.
Happy birthday, John.
Doesn't look a day over 22.
No. It looks
So
good.
happy birthday to John. As always,
indeed.
we're here at the Wildfire Radio Studios in beautiful Woodbury, New Jersey. Teller is with us on the other side of this. We can't see him now, but he's there.
He's doing a hell of a job over there.
Yeah, well, we got him working today, Dave. we got him working because we're doing something a little different. Well, actually,
Yeah.
I'll mention that in a minute. But let's mention our sponsors, who we appreciate their support week after week.
Always.
Our great friend Eric Metz at Croker Percussion. CrokerPercussion.com, CROAKER Percussion.com. They're dedicated to creating quality, handcrafted percussion instruments with superior sound quality and unmatched craftsmanship. Check them out on the web. You'll see all the great stuff Eric has.
Great stuff.
You can also call him at 215-669-8588. And we're also brought to you again this week by our friends at the School of Rock Berwyn in Mainline, Philadelphia. As I've said many times, they
Teaching there today.
Are you going over there later?
I'm going over there later. Yeah.
That's great. They take young musicians and they train them and teach them and make them feel like rock stars. And some of them, will actually go on to become rock stars.
Wow, they got some great players over there. They're doing a Petty show right now.
Oh, nice.
Classic, metal classic. They're doing a classic Prague show, Creedence show, and Women in Rock.
Very, very cool.
Yeah.
So check them out.
Please.
Schoolofrock.com. Look up specifically the one in Mainline, Berwyn, Pennsylvania.
Dave Marsh, Rick Allison.
There
Great
you
people.
go.
What a program. It's impressive. Blows me away.
Right. And you can call them, too, at 610-647-2900. Couldn't read my writing there.
The best.
Yeah. So, and you could have Dave as a teacher if you're a drummer. So, all right. I said
Even if you're not a drummer, you can have me a teacher.
Well, there you go. Well, that's right. You're playing the trumpet now. You play.
Well, I mean, teaching anybody that's not. I'm not going to teach him the trumpet, that's for sure.
All right. Well,
but I'm having fun with that trumpet for sure.
One of these days, Dave. One of these days, you're going to play this trumpet.
It's in my car now. I travel
during
with
the podcast because you're getting to a point where
you heard it.
I heard it. I heard Dave rehearse. We got to the podcast early a few weeks back, and Dave's in his car parked outside the studio, and he's playing his trumpet in the car. And I'm pulling up behind him.
And what was I playing? I was playing the national anthem.
Well, I couldn't really tell what you were playing.
And that's segueing into Man in the Street, which is really great.
There you go. Well, any day now, we're going to be debuting Dave's first public trumpet performance right here on
Hold your breath.
Right here on the podcast. Dallin, how's it sound? So, I mentioned we're doing something different this week. We were actually going to have a huge guest, legendary drummer Kenny Aronoff, longtime John Mellencamp drummers, played with everybody. And there was a scheduling snafu, so we couldn't get John.
Kenny will be back.
We couldn't get Kenny this week. We will have him at some point. Yeah. So I came up with this idea, Dave, for the last. Now I don't know if you're doing this because you just turned 65 and you're getting nostalgic.
You had to tell them.
But they know. but over the last couple weeks, months or so, you've been posting these incredible photos on Facebook. And,
do you know why? What's happening is because of COVID. I have a studio in my house, and Dallin and I are doing a little bit of remodeling in some places, and so of course you start cleaning and consolidating, as we like to call it, and I got through all these pictures and down. Did you see this one and that one and that one? So I went through it, and you just start recalling all these great times. And so sometimes I take a photo of it or scan it and put it up. So I've come across some great material.
Well, yes, you have. And so I've been seeing these pictures and the comments people have been making on social media. They're like blown away by some of these pictures and the memories that it evokes for people. So I said, we didn't have a guest this week, and we didn't want to miss a week because we missed last week.
All right.
So I said, let's do an episode. We'll call it Dave's Scrapbook.
I love it.
And we'll go through and we'll just share memories that you've had. Now, we're taking what is generally an audio format, and we're providing a video element to it. So I don't know how well it's going to work. But if you
tell our people where they can find the video, right? Isn't it like?
There will be a video of the podcast. Yeah. We'll post the link to the video so people can find the video, because we're gonna be showing all these photos during the video. Again, thanks to Taylor for pulling it all together. And also, if you're just listening and you're not watching the video, we're going to link all the photos on Facebook and Instagram or wherever else you go on social media, so you can look at the pictures as you listen to the podcast. So we'll see how it works. So it's like I said, we're bringing a video element to a audio format, but I think it's going to work. I like it. And we're gonna jump right in, because Dave has tons of stories for all these pictures, and we want to get to all of them. Yeah. And we're going to go pretty much chronologically, except for this first one. I wanted to start with a biggie right off the bat.
Good. Yes, look at that.
And this is, again, if you're watching on video, you see it. And if not, I'm going to describe it. This is 1987, Top of the Pops. Actually, December 3rd, 1987. Yeah. The Hooters and Paul McCartney playing Top of the Pops in England. and in this picture, you got the whole band. Linda's there, and Paul's front and center. Yeah. And Dave is holding Paul's bass.
I have the headstock.
You're Paul.
Actually, a little story about that bass, though. That actually is a bass I think we rented that day. And oddly enough, I think I told you this before the show. We didn't know, I at least didn't know, and I think Eric didn't know, that Paul was going to be a guest on that show. So it was mind-blowing when we walked in there. No one told us, and all of a sudden we hear a band sound checking in the other room, and it's Paul McCartney and his band, who, he had Linda in the band, Hamish Stewart, I think, was in the band. I forget the drummer's name, but he played with the Pretenders. And he's singing. He looks over at Eric and I, and he goes, "Hey, mates." And we turned around like, who's he waving to?
Well, who else? Was there anybody behind you?
Well, we both turned around. And I think I looked at him and looked at me, and Eric said, "Oh, my God." And it was Paul. And we're huge Beatle fans, still to this day. When you meet a Beatle, any of them, especially Paul, you feel like you're with a god. And we were both, our minds were blown. And what a day. What an incredible day.
Right. And
the funniest comment about that I got to shake. I've had a friend of mine who saw that. He goes, "Man, I didn't know he was that short." I said, "He's sitting down."
Right. He does look short, little in the picture.
Yeah, I'm bending over. He said, "No, he's sitting down." Yeah.
Yeah.
Wonderful guy. Wonderful.
Well, you mentioned to me when you sent the pictures over originally that he could not have been nicer. That he
couldn't have.
Just
the bigger the artist, my experiences, the bigger the Mick, the George, all those guys, they've all been the nicest, just humblest cats that I've ever met. It's just a great thing. I guess they just one-on-one they were just the best, and I just got great feelings about it. It felt like I felt like probably anyone else would meet a Beatle. You feel like you know them. And he was just so cool. How's your mom?
How long did you guys get to hang out?
We hung out all afternoon. We spent the day with the BBC because you mime to the song.
Right.
And I think Paul, I forget, I think there's some vocals going on. They're doing vocals, but you're playing to the track. And Paul was doing the same thing. And we hung out in our dressing rooms were right next to each other, and he spent a lot of time in ours. It's surreal.
I'm still blown away by the fact that you show up and you have no idea.
I had no idea.
Paul McCartney.
I can't believe no one told me, and I'm glad they didn't, because I probably would have been up for a week. Blair, I still and Linda was just so nice. She sent a calendar that I can't find anymore. I think my ex-girlfriend may have it, but it's just a beautiful piece of work that she got my address and sent it to me.
Oh,
Linda Eastman McCartney,
so she sent you that photo?
She didn't send me the photo. She sent me a calendar that she drew.
Oh, nice.
She had her own, straight from the address. Now, and they also signed my jean jacket. I have a jean jacket that's really cool that they both signed for me. And Paul wrote, "Paul McCartney was here," and it's signed in there. Yeah, it's wonderful.
That's
great. I love that photo.
All right, as I said, that was from December 3rd, 1987. Okay, Now we're going to go to very, very young Dave. You said when you sent me this picture, you were 11 years old. Nope, wrong one. Wrong one,
okay.
Taylor. We're going the wrong direction.
There we go.
You said you were 11, but you look about 9. And this is in Lambertville, New Jersey. I guess Lambertville Music Circus.
It was one of the smart decisions I made as a kid. I mean, I fell in love with
let's tell the people, because a lot of people are just listening and they can't see us. Yeah. This is young Dave in a nice, looking very sharp, in a jacket and tie.
My dad insisted.
Standing next to the legendary Buddy Rich. Now,
Yeah,
were you old enough at this point to appreciate who Buddy Rich
Oh
was?
yeah, I knew. My dad had. I actually at the time I didn't have any Buddy's records. I had Gene Krupa records. My father did. My father was really into Harry James, and he was really into Duke Ellington, Count Basie, and all the jazz greats. And so we only had so many records, and they're the records that we played until the Beatles came around.
Right.
And so, Buddy, we had to go see Buddy, and I think I was in it. And I think my dad also, insisted, you're going to this. If you really call yourself a drummer, you're going. And because I passed on Duke Ellington.
Oh, Dave.
Yeah, I know. I was building a fort. You're a kid in Mill Creek, you're building a fort. And I didn't go. Later on, I made amends by going to see Count Basie, met Butch Miles as drummer and everything. But what an amazing experience, and a fact that I got that photo. And today, I'm friends on Facebook with Kathy, his daughter, who has kept his legacy alive. And the guy is still the greatest. I mean, and that day I remember he was on fire. Like when he do it, like nobody did when he would do that thing with the single stroke roll and then just get going. With it's just single strokes, and his hands, just an absolute natural. And what amazed me about Buddy, it was, you heard the drummers were loud. He just knew how to get the sound out of it. But he flowed. His swing was floating. It would float. And it was like another drummer that reminded me of Buddy. Years later, what I saw was Manu Katché, who played with Peter Gabriel. He had this lope about the way he played, and Buddy was the same way. It was just everything sound-wise. He knew exactly where to hit the drum. It was so musical. He's just a musical genius.
Were you okay? So for people who can't, Dave's looking very serious, and Buddy's, Buddy's right now.
I was scared shitless.
I was going to say, did you have a conversation with Buddy Rich when you were 11
years
old?
My father had trouble getting the camera working, and Buddy under his breath was like, "Get the fucking camera working." And I'm looking, going like, "Well, I made him like me. I made me like him more." But at the same time, I'm looking and I'm thinking, it's my dad you're talking to, man. But
well, how cool is it that Buddy took the time, especially if your dad was
struggling? And
he did
it years later. He did the same thing with me, because Joe Casadas, who I took lessons with, said, "Say hi to Buddy and tell him you take lessons from me." And I said, I knew. Really? Like, here I'm going to tell the greatest drummer in the world I take lessons from you. Now, Joe was a great drummer, but I didn't know how he was going to react. And he put his arm around me, walked me to his bus, and how's Joe? And he was just another guy that was just phenomenal.
Well, I just think it's so cool in this picture that he took the time to stand there and take this picture with this kid who obviously he didn't know from. And it's also very cool that your dad had such great music taste.
Thank God for my father. He didn't play an instrument. He was just an amazing guy. And then when we started, I guess, making it in music, I remember my father even told me, man, walking with him on the beach, he was in his work boots and his sweating, and he had his belt on with the hammer and all that stuff, and he's walking with me through Asbury Park. And he said, "You made the right choice. Yeah, you made the right choice." And it was just such a nice thing to hear from my pop. Rest in peace.
That's tremendous.
Yeah.
All right, let's go to another photo of young Dave. This is, I think you're about 14 years old. Yeah. And people have seen this photo because
this is me on the. I don't know if they were jet drums.
Well, let's describe. This is Dave at your home in
No, that's not my home. That's at Wayne Myers' house.
Okay.
Wayne Myers was the guy that, if it wasn't for Wayne, I probably wouldn't be playing music. Okay. I mean, maybe I would, but
Wayne,
he expedited it.
Yeah, this is in the Mill Creek Falls section of Levittown.
I could play. I could do that right away. It was the kiss of death. I could play that, and I could play it like somewhat time. I guess my thought in time. And a guitar teacher that I wanted to take lessons from said my hands were too small. I think he just thought I was going to be a pain in the ass. So I ended up going to the drums. And that drum set.
Is that your first kit?
That is my first set. And my dad, he could not afford those drums. He worked so hard. I remember, and this guy came in the neighborhood. I don't know if he stole them or what, but they were in the trunk of his car. He was at my friend's house, and there was a little seedy shit going on with this one guy's with his brother. And the guy said, "I'll sell the drums for $150." And my father went over, I think, negotiated with him, and got him for like under $100. And I said he took them. So I was my first kit, and I got him home, and I never stopped playing. I remember I just played triplets all the time. I would play triplets forever. friends would come to the side window and said, Dave, come on, it's time to go out. He goes, and here's one friend of mine would have jumped, you suck, you're not going to amount to anything. And then he would tell me later, he goes, yeah, I was wrong. But it was just wonderful times, man. Check it out. Wayne Myers, my other neighbor, John Danaher, we had a little band, and we played, and it was fun. And we had great Wayne had great records. James Brown live at the Apollo, and, of course, Stones and the Beatles records, and we'd listen to this stuff. And Wayne also played in the string band in Philly. He lived in it, and he was a really great guitar player. Still is today.
And what are you about? Like I said, about 14 years old in this picture?
Oh no, I think I'm probably 12 years old.
Oh, okay.
Like 12 years old. 11 years old probably. I just once I got him, I was playing all the time.
That's great. And
in between building forts.
Right, and missing Duke Ellington. Yeah.
Missing Duke Ellington.
All right. We're going to go now. We're going to jump ahead to one of your early pre-Hooters bands. We're going to go to the Torpedoes.
Yeah.
And in the picture, now there's 5 people in the picture, and you and Danny D'Souza are the only ones sadly still alive. You got Bobby Woods, you got John Kuzma, and, of course, Danny DeGennaro.
The legendary guys.
You guys are all gathered around the piano here. What do you remember about the Torpedoes, Dave?
Oh, just such a great experience. And Danny, tragically lost his life to some crap, and
that's coming up on 10 years.
I can't believe it. But what a giant, when guitar players were like Danny was just such a freak, because his hero was, he loved Roy Buchanan, he loved David Allan Coe, and at the time, Kuzma and I were hanging out, and Kuzma was way into Jimi Hendrix, loved David Bowie, and Stones, Keith, and Danny comes over one day in his fur coat. He was playing with his band, but he heard about us, and he just came over. And he just wanted to play with us. It was such. I don't think about it. Later on, I thought, oh, what an honor. Like, he came in, he goes, I want what you guys have, and we want what you have, So we started hanging out, and then we bonded immediately. And I remember Danny and I would get on plane, like back in the old days before you had to go through. Before 9/11, you could just jump on a plane, and like Danny had some stuff going on, so we had a little bit of money, and we would grab on a plane. I remember we flew down to North Carolina, and we hung out. And my point before I got diverted was that he was really into David Allan Coe and these Southern guys, man. And he had stuff going on, and he loved James Taylor. And he had just such an eclectic vocabulary musically that I've never been around a guy like that. And then the first time I ever saw him play was with a band called Excaliburs. And he was so funky, and I got into a fight with him. He was, Danny was a pretty big guy, and I was like a little guy. And I'm in the bathroom, and I said, I don't know why I was mad at Clyde Peters, got at a music store, but I was a little pissed off at him, and I said something that wasn't too nice about Clyde, and I shouldn't have. And Danny's in the stall, and he said, who the fuck said that, right? Now he's walking out, and here I'm standing there, because I said that. And he goes, well, you don't know shit. Remember, it was like a little bit of and I said, yeah, probably. I looked at him and said, yeah. And because he was the guitar player in the band. And all of a sudden I see, I still remember the drummer's name. The drummer in that band was named Dave LaRue. He was really good. And Jack DeGennaro played bass. I forget the other guitar player, but Danny was back then still funky, could play all the Otis Redding, James Brown, Stax stuff. And then he became Danny DeGennaro, and that voice. I never heard him sing, and then when he started singing, and the Torpedoes got together. Initially, we had another bass player, Steve, and it didn't work out with Steve, and Steve wasn't happy with us. And he was there for just, I think, maybe 6 or 7 weeks or something like that. And then Bobby Woods was, I forget, but Bobby came along because John and I knew Bobby from Fallen Angel, from playing with Stockyard, which that was my connection with Bobby. And then Bobby came in, and he was like playing drums and bass with Bobby. It was like, you just knew where the pocket was. And he was just ridiculous. It's like I hear Mickey Curry talk about T-Bone. Bobby was my T-Bone. Just incredibly gifted for a feel. No one played like him. And just a beautiful cat. And then the legendary John Kuzma, who was just a legend in Levittown. And then he was, if you look at some of the early Hooters stuff, phenomenal. And then Danny D'Souza, who was the quiet one, who was just a brilliant, he's a brilliant musician to this day, but he's doing more documentary film work these days. Right. All great people. It just saddens me that 3 of them are not here anymore, and I miss them all the time.
Okay. Well, another early band that also featured John Kuzma and Bobby Woods.
Yeah.
was Hot Property.
Yeah.
And this is a great picture. This is a you got
punker. I was the punker, and so was John.
Yeah, you got the punk look, and of course you got Heidi Lindner with you. You got
great singer.
Great singer, and Bobby Wood's hair kind of takes up a large chunk of the picture. But,
it does, doesn't it?
But
he was the best, man.
And you were telling me a story with Hot Property that Heidi knew Ace Frehley, right? And
yeah, that was so we were playing, and Heidi was from New York, White Plains, New York, and we went and stayed at the Marx Toys estate when we recorded in the Bronx. And so we all go up there. It was a great experience for me because, I was just learning to record. I was recording with John Mulhern at his place, and then we got invited to the studio. And we were going to cut the first version of a so-called What I Am, which got us on the WMMR breakout record. It was the demo. And when we were in the studio, and I think the engineer that day, he went on to be a pretty famous engineer somewhere. I forget, but Ace, Heidi said, I have a friend that's going to swing by. And this is the time when Kiss, no one saw them without their makeup back then.
Right.
And he comes walking in, this big guy with he had these platform shoes on. And he was like a rough looking cat. His skin wasn't the greatest. He looked like, he wore a lot of makeup, when he takes off makeup, this weird shit to your face. And he had the long hair, and he goes, "This is my friend Ace Frehley." I was fuck. I said, "Are you kidding me?" And we hung at Ace State all day. I remember, this is 79, so we were raising a little hell. And he got this package, and he pulled out like lots. There was we had extracurricular activity going on.
It was 1979, Dave. You can say it.
We did some coke,
Okay, all right,
and then later, so we all go home. We did a session. We cut it, and we had a blast. And Ace stayed all day, and then we went back to the Marx estate, and he came back, and we hung out. And I remember that night. Apparently, he said I had a little bit of accident on the way down. I guess he pummeled 5 cars, going down each car. And that's why and to this day, Ace is not that guy anymore. He's like Stevie Ray Vaughan, changed his life, turned it around, and became an incredible person.
Yeah,
great guitar player.
Yeah, absolutely. And then Hot Property as a band, I mean, that was a
wonderful
band.
Great band.
Obviously.
Well, if it wasn't for Hot Property, I probably wouldn't have met Eric Bazillion, because we got invited to play on the breakout record, and that's how Eric. We played Stars with Cats. And which was a great band. Tommy Stewart played drums, and Danny Tweston, and I think Jimmy Mahoney played on the demos, and they were just a wonderful band. And we were playing gigs, and Eric came out, and that's how they saw me, and they invited me to play on some demos that Eric had, and that's how that all started.
Well, that's a perfect segue to an early Hooters photo. This is outdoors on Chestnut Street, I guess, an outdoor street festival.
Look at it. Sarah from WMMR just sent me a note. Can we use that on the MMR website? Because look at the vintage MMR
there's
banner
a vintage
in the
MMR
back.
banner in the back, and you can see the whole band. And obviously, this is still when Bobby Woods and John Kuzma.
John Lilly played that show because he was playing with Robert Hazard.
Okay.
That show had John Eddy and the Front Street Runners, the Hooters, and Robert Hazard, and we played on the street, and we knew we had something going special in the city then.
Well, this would have been about 1981? 81.
Yeah.
Okay. And you can see if for the picture, if the people could see, I mean, the crowd's going crazy. Everybody's got their arms up in the air. I mean, I'm sure you're probably playing obviously some upbeat reggae number on
maybe Man in the Street,
picture, maybe Man in the Street,
Man in the Street, or we did a great version of the Yardbirds, For Your Love, ska.
But the crowd's going nuts.
Trouble in Paradise.
It looks like a beautiful day. And
Point Your Little Pinky.
Yeah. It's just it captures.
Soon you'll be gone.
Yeah. You want to just sing the rest of the show? There, I'll sing. But it's a great picture because it captures the feel of those early Hooters.
John looks like he can kick your ass. He's like, oh yeah. John's like buffed.
Yeah. It's just a great shot of any other memories of that. I mean, you've obviously so much.
I remember watching Hazard and just thinking, man, these guys are cool. They had John came out, and I couldn't get John. John walked out. John Lilly had this shirt that said John Lilly on his shirt. I was like, we were that, I was like, that was cool. Yeah. He just said, that's who I am, man. Right. It was cool. Michael Pilla and Robert was fantastic. They were cool. They really had a look. You know, they were all unified.
Was Robert Hazard the headliner? Or was
I can't remember. I think we were all. There was like I think back in the night, I think he might have closed the show.
okay.
Yeah. But there was like, you know, there was everybody. I think they were there like that for John Eddie too.
Right.
John Eddie was loved in the city as well.
Oh yeah.
They loved him.
Okay. All right. Well, we're going to jump now to 1982, specifically September 25th, and we're going to go to JFK Stadium, where the Hooters opened for Santana, The Clash, and The Who.
Look at Mick.
And somehow, and I want to hear this story.
Yeah.
The Hooters ended up getting a picture taken with a guest of the show, Mick Jagger.
Yeah.
And just hanging out with Mick Jagger.
Yeah.
I guess, and it's just a great photo.
Isn't that great?
Looks great. And Mick's just okay. So I got to ask this, Dave, because obviously the Hooters were well established in Philadelphia,
right,
but you weren't known nationally in 1982, other than a few pockets of the country.
No.
And here you are. So you're still a local band,
right?
And here you are standing, and you're hanging out
with Mick Jagger.
So how the hell did that happen? And I just love this picture.
Well, you know, I'm reading Bill Wyman's book right now, Stone Alone. So you know, he was buds with the Who,
right?
And obviously, he probably liked the Clash. And, you know, probably knew Carlos Santana at the time, too, because of playing in San Francisco. I don't know who told me. Maybe it might have been Larry Maggot, but he said, I got a guest flying in on a helicopter. And it was Mick Jagger and his daughter, Jade. And, I mean, think about this. This is before we met, like, Paul. Any of that stuff happened. So,
right. Well, you're right. As I said, you're
not
remember, established yet at this point.
I saw his face, and I felt like, you know, it's like Popeye came alive. It's like he was a cartoon character to me. Like Mick had the big lips, this face. He just like when I came face to face with that face, I felt like he came out of it was like I thought I died and went to heaven. And then I'm having a beer with him in the morning, you know, like I was having a beer. I think he had a beer too.
He's got a beer in the photo.
Yeah, I had a beer. I had a beer. There's a picture of us.
Where is this? Where exactly is this picture taken?
This is backstage behind JFK Stadium.
Okay, so
and Mick was couldn't have been nicer. Couldn't have been nicer. And then later on, like he was hanging out with Roger Daltrey. Hey, he was just a regular dude, you know, just incredible. Look at his outfit.
Yeah,
he's cool. He's so cool. He was little.
Like
I was surprised how little he was. I mean, you know, I was surprised how human he was. You know what I mean? That's what always got me.
Did you guys just say, "Hey, Mick, can we get a photo?" kind of thing? And
somebody said, "Let's take a photo," and we took a photo, and he was just.
And he was. Yeah.
I mean, a guy must be used to that because it's just what he went through. But this is after, you know, I never realized all the crazy shit that these guys went through after the legal stuff, all the crap they went through. I mean, this guy's lived like 200 lifetimes by the time he got here.
Right.
You know, so many experiences and. The women just loved him.
Yeah, well, the other thing
the men.
Oh, yeah. Yes, we do. The other thing I noticed about this photo, Dave, and it's a continuing, it's a trend throughout these pictures. You were the one next to Mick Jagger. Just like you were the one next to Paul McCartney.
Yeah.
And as we go along to a few more famous people, you're the one next to, you're going to see George Harrison, you're the one next to Roger Waters. How is it that you always get to be the one next to
I'm a drummer.
But it's like, do you have to weasel your way?
No, I think it's a drummer thing. I think drummers just connect with, we got a thing. I see that like all my drummer friends, Kenny, Mick, you know, drummers vibe with people. We vibe. I tell drummers all the time, I say, listen, man, you know, you got to work on your chops, but you got to work on your social skills, my friend. You're kind of an asshole.
I'm just very impressed that in all these pictures with these huge stars, you're always one of the guys that are right next to
you. You got to pull your weight, and then you got to make them all sound like they're geniuses.
And the other thing too about this picture,
like engineers do for me.
The other thing too, Dave, is you managed to look very cool and calm in this photo. I'm sure inside you're like, holy shit, I'm standing next to Mick Jagger.
I was,
but you look very.
I was really kind of out of my mind, you know, because it's like here you go. Mick Jagger, and I love the Stones. I love the Stones. I love Brian Jones. Like I was like all depressed when Brian Jones passed away, which even right now I'm reliving again because I'm reading the book. But you know, I just and then I fell in love with Mick Taylor. So it's like the Stones are everything to me.
The other quick story about this day, and I know you've told it before, is you guys were opening for Santana, The Clash, and The Who, but you never saw The Who play because you had a gig in Richmond. That night, you had to bail and head down to Richmond.
What a day. Because I remember another thing, too, when I was on stage. So, and I met all the guys in The Clash. They were cool. Joe Strummer was cool. They weren't like, you know, Hooters. They were great. I'm playing drums, and one thing I remember too is that the great drummer that played with Gino Vanelli. Oh man, right now my name is going. But he played with with Paul Anka for a long time afterwards. Had a long time standing gig. Great drummer. It was playing with Santana, and when I was playing, Carlos Santana sat behind me when I was playing, and I turned around. I remember my drum tech at the time kind of gave me an elbow, and I turned around, and Carlos Santana sitting right behind me. I was like, oh my God. And I felt so honored. Like, so I better be good. I remember I was like just playing out of my mind that day. But it was like, what an experience, man.
Right.
Opening for The Who. And then we broke up for a little while because Eric and Rob went and do Cindy's record. And you could be on such a high. That's the thing about this business too. You could be, and you got to learn to ride it out. You could be on such a high, and then all of a sudden, like, it's done. I was depressed. And then fortunately, they called me back up to get back and play again.
All right. Well, this picture's with Mick Jagger. Now we have another picture, and I do not know this story at all, Dave. There's a picture of you and Jerry Hall.
Oh, yeah, this is cool.
When was this taken?
She's beautiful, isn't she?
Yes, she is. And
this is taken at the Berlin Wall.
Oh, okay. So this is much to 1990s.
This is much later, but Jerry, we hung out with everybody. I mean, Van Morrison, Bryan Adams, the great actor that passed away that was in the Aaron Brockovich movie, sat at our table and we just hung out all day. And Jerry knew him, I think he was a British guy. He won an Oscar for that. He was the lawyer that Aaron Brockovich worked for. And I'm sorry because I'm spacing on name, but Jerry Hall and I took a photo together. I mean, it's like you're smelling the same air and smelling her. It's like really nice. And she was just really cool. And I was smitten. Look, I'm in shock. I think I was in more shock standing next to her than Mick. But
yeah,
it's pretty
this
cool.
one, it's just you and Jerry in the picture. It's for those who can't see. It's she's got like a yellow and black dress. She was obviously in honor of you, Dave. She wore yellow. For the photo.
She wore yellow. But she was also in the performance of The Wall.
Right. We're gonna get to The Wall. I jumped ahead with that.
But she was in part of the production, so that's why we were all hanging out.
Well,
we got to be good friends with Roger.
Yeah, that's cool. Well, we're gonna get to Roger in a little bit. But let's go back to another legend. This is the Hooters with George Harrison.
The quiet one.
We already have the picture with McCartney we showed, and now here's a picture with the whole band with George Harrison right in the middle.
Yeah.
And you described
me
him
and John Lilly on one side, he's on the other.
Yeah, and once again, Dave is next,
of course.
is right next to him because Dave always gets next to him.
Yeah.
But you
I got a career to think of. I got hey, wait a minute, maybe you need a session guy. I don't know.
You described him
Keltner.
You described Harrison as amazingly gracious.
Oh my God!
And you did say there's a story around this
looks
encounter.
you straight in the eye. He was just that guy. Well, here's the deal with this. We play. He took the photo, and John Lilly remembers him saying, "It must be great to be in a band," which was an odd thing to say. He said that to him, and then he said we were going to Guilford where he lived. I believe he had a house in Guilford. And he said, I'm going to call Eric and maybe we'll come, if we can, we got a session and we'll come over and sit in. And we were like, oh my God. And he actually called. And now George Harrison, he doesn't have to call and say, listen, I got stuck. I'm stuck in the studio. But someone called our tour manager, said he can't make it. So don't worry about putting an amp out. I mean, we were literally thinking about putting an amp out for George Harrison. How about that? That would have been cool.
Oh, yeah.
And he was going to bring his friend Eric. Wonder who that would have been.
Oh, man. Yeah.
Yeah.
So when was this?
This was doing the show Fridays, which is the British version of Saturday Night Live.
Okay.
So we did that, and we played live on that show. And I should post that too. The video when we played, we kicked ass on that show. We did Johnny B and Satellite. It was a great night.
Right. There's also a brief video on your YouTube page from this photo shoot.
When he's talking.
When George is talking.
And he goes, I'm a Hooters. He goes, I'm with the Hooters. I was like, oh my God, he said our name. Yeah. We were flipping out. George was, that's another, him dying so young and just such a sweetheart. And my wife, Talon, met him years later and said she felt like the presence of just greatness and just something soothing around the guy. He was, look at him, man.
Yeah, well,
just
in this
beautiful.
Picture, I mentioned how cool and calm Dave looked in the Jagger photo.
Oh, shit.
In the Harrison photo, you got a huge smile.
Yeah. He was great.
Yeah,
he was great.
John Lilly's got a huge smile.
Yeah, we were both
Eric, everybody, the whole band smiled.
He was great.
Yeah, so, all right, well, let's go from one legend to another. We mentioned the Wall concert. which took place July 21st, 1990 in Berlin. And Roger Waters put this huge spectacle together. And, and this is the Hooters with Roger Waters. Once again, Dave is next to the man of the hour. The story goes, Roger was a fan of the band. He
came to the Town and Country we were playing, and the production manager came back and said, Roger Waters and his wife Carolyn are here, and they'd like to come back and meet you guys after the show. Sure. So we end up going out for drinks with him later. So we were at the bar, and he was having some issues with David Gilmour at the time. So he let it hang out, man. He was telling us that, I can't even say the words that he said. For some reason, when a British guy says it, it doesn't sound as bad, but there's still a gnarliness about the, F word, C word, those kind of things that you're like, whoa. And but then he gave me his phone number, which was really cool. And it was before the, email and all that. And I called him when we came back later, because we were having hit records over there. And I called him up, and I invited him to a show we were playing. I don't know, maybe it was the Marquee Club or something like that. But we played Marquee a bunch, and we played Town and Country. And then I invited him. He said, I'm rehearsing for this show at the Wall. And my guitar player is a friend of yours. His name's Rick DeFonso. He played in the A's. I was like, oh, my God. He said, so I can't make your show. And I said to him, if you need a support, I'm like, just kind of throwing it, you need a support act. We'd be great for that. And he said, well, I already got Bob Dylan and Don Henley. And he said, I'll reach out. I said, okay. But 3 weeks later, they end up calling our manager. And I don't know if maybe one thing, maybe our manager, but I swear to God, I think I had something to do with that.
Oh, you absolutely.
Well, maybe, I don't know.
You put the thought in his head.
Oh, well, I did. He said maybe the Hooters, the name came up. I don't know. I mean, I didn't book it, but I did mention it to him. And then, when he comes to town, anytime he's in Philly, he lets us know, and he invites us, and we see him afterwards. I got pictures of him together years later, and he's always been great. I remember Dallin was at a show. Dallin's a huge fan of Pink Floyd. Like, she knows the drum riffs better than I do. and Roger was at we were playing at the Pier in New York, and Rick Chertoff came, and Roger Waters came with him, and Dallin said she watched him more than she watched the show. She could not believe that Roger Waters came to see us, like there. She said, you must be, like, this is when she was just my buddy. We weren't like husband or girl, hanging out like that.
Right.
And so, like, I went up a few notches in her belt.
you were pretty cool that Roger was coming to see you guys play.
Yeah.
But, so we have another photo that you sent, Dave, of the actual performance.
Yes.
This is the Hooters opening the show at the Wall. And again,
John looking cool. Lily looking cool as hell standing there. Eric up in the front there. I'm on the drums, the riser. And right there, we were playing to a minimal of like 250,000 people.
Yeah, the one bad thing, not bad, but the one unfortunate thing about this photo is it doesn't capture the magnitude of the crowd.
Oh, my God.
From this angle, you can't see.
At one point,
but
I climbed this. When Rick went up, Rick DeFonso climbed the scaffold. I climbed behind him because I wanted to see it. Like, I was a little crazy, too. The scaffold, I mean, if a good wind came by, I'd see you, Rick, because you're up there. But the stage was massive. It was the first real global satellite kind of thing. And I remember there was, we end up being in the film. If you go to see the Roger Waters performance, we're in the film. When we did Mother, there was a satellite. Someone reminded me, Oliver, a friend of mine on Facebook, sent me a note yesterday. He goes, didn't the satellite thing go down? I said, yeah. It did. And Sinead O'Connor was like, I didn't want to come back to the stage. Like, she's telling Roger, I don't want to come back. And it's like, hey, man, there's like millions of people listening to this thing. You got to come back. So he came back because we recorded it the day before, just in case something happened during the show. And it did, I think, at the show. And that's when they plugged in the day before, so it didn't mess up the satellite thing.
Right. You did Mother with Sinead, and the band was the band was up there, Rick Danko. And
I had the best hang with Rick Danko and Levon. Levon and I, we were, I'd see Levon. Hey, Dave, we don't hug. He was really nice. Eric and Robin, I'm playing on Atlantic City. Right. Levon and Danko at the time, I quit using and taking drugs, but I remember Danko at the time hasn't yet. So he's got a handful of like, hey, you want some? I was like, nah, I can't. Oh, I'd like to, but I can't. I got this codeine that doesn't help. It's like ridiculous.
And by 1989 or 1990 when this show took place, obviously at this point the Hooters had pretty much seen and done it all. But still, you're up there in front of 200,000 people and you're performing Mother with Roger Waters, the band, Sinead O'Connor. I mean, that had to be just
mind blowing.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was one of those things where you just. you're up there, you're pinching yourself, like, how did I get here,
Right.
And then somehow you get in your head, like, I belong here,
Well,
But
you did belong.
Yeah,
I mean,
we
you do
did.
belong there, but still, it's still got to be for someone like you who had been playing drums at that point for whatever,
Ever.
forever, your whole life.
I couldn't take
my
my eyes off of Graham Brode, who played drums with Roger Waters, who still today is one of my favorite drummers of all time, just beautiful. They got a whole scene, for us, in England, they have just an incredible scene of musicians and drummers, and Graham has always been one of my favorites, so it was so cool watching Snowy White, and Roger was just so chill. He never, another case where, like, he's doing his show, he's to be the boss, but things got really wacky because backstage they just brought the wall down, so there were people that didn't like the barriers, so we had to get out there in a hurry. Bill Graham was helping a lot on that show. Bill Graham was in our bus. We hung out. My tour manager kicked Bill Graham off the bus on the way to the hotel and didn't know it was Bill Graham. He called me up that night. He goes, "What are you gonna?" What? He said, "What did I do?" I said, "I ruined my career." I said, "Nah, just call him up." So he called Bill Graham's son, David. I think it was his name, son. And said, Bill was fine with it. He actually thought it was funny. He said, we're going to drop you off here. Bill Graham, usually you should go to the hotel where he's at, but he dropped him off on the corner like a mile away.
Nice.
Yeah, great.
All right, well, let's go back. We're going to backtrack a couple of years to a photo shoot for the Hooters' second full-length album, One Way Home.
One Way Home.
And this, you said, is in Lily Tomlin's backyard in the Hamptons?
Well, we were doing, I believe the photographer is David Katzenstein, who worked, do you remember there was a magazine called Life Magazine?
Yeah, sure.
And he did covers, and he's just a brilliant photographer. So Columbia Records, I think Jack Rovner was our production manager at the time, hired him to take a photo of One Way Home, and we were using what is the famous now I feel really bad, I'm forgetting her name, the woman, the photographer.
I know who you're talking. I know who you're talking about too, and senility.
Annie Leibovitz.
Annie Leibovitz, right?
Annie Leibovitz. We were in her summer house to use as we were getting changed, and then Lily Tomlin next door. She had a place. This is in the Hamptons, and we stayed at a hotel. It was a 2-day shoot, or maybe it was a 1-day shoot, but we got there the day before, and we spent the night at the hotel. Hamptons. It was cool. I'd never been to the Hamptons before. It's the first time I had experience of that, and so we were out, and that horse. If you could see, that's where the horse bit me.
Is the horse? Is that
the horse is biting?
Is the horse biting you in this photo?
Had a feeling that, like, I get along with musicians, horses. The horse was like,
What'd you do to the horse, Dave?
I looked at him. No, he just kind of went over. He just, like, we were playing, and he just went. Cook. I don't know. Maybe. Oh, you know what that is? You remember he asked about the masks? We have beards on.
Okay.
We were horsing around. We put beards on, and maybe
because it looks like, if you look at the photo, it looks like a COVID shot because it looks like everybody's got
right,
a mask on.
Right.
But those are fake beards.
That is the photo session for One Way Home.
Right.
And I guess we all have I don't know if I have that up in my office. That photo, because it just brings back they're good times, good times hanging with the band. We had a great time doing that. Photo sessions can be rough, but we made the best out of it.
Well, this one obviously was rough. You got attacked by a horse.
I got attacked by a horse.
Did you have to get any kind of like shot or anything?
No, he just bit my jacket.
Oh, okay. So
just got the leather jacket on it. Just like, it's a cow. You got a cow out there. Ripped it off. So, yeah, it was fun.
All right, we're going to go back again, back to from the look of your hair in this. I'm going to say we're talking early 80s here. This is you at the Spectrum. This
83 celebrity shot.
This has nothing to do with music. This is Dave on the Spectrum floor throwing up looks like a three.
I could play basketball.
This is like a 3/4 court shot.
This
isn't even half court. This is 3/4 courts, and you're throwing up. And you said that it's just Dave with his 1983 hair.
Yeah.
And playing at the Spectrum on a celebrity shot. And you said Charles Barkley. Well, Charles
Barkley coached me. Barkley
said wouldn't have been there in '83 though. So if this is
so maybe it's 84.
Okay, Barkley got drafted in '84, I think.
Yeah, it was his first year.
Okay, so
it was his first year, so it was '84. It was '84, and Barkley said to me, "Just heave it," because I was going. Andy and I both took the celebrity shot. Andy went for I'm talking about Andy King. Andy King went for the shot, and it was like, and Andy could play ball. I mean, I think he played basketball in his high school. Andy, I think I don't even think he hit the net or the rim. And Charles says to me, just heave it. So I hit the 24-second clock.
You actually,
I hit the 24-second clock, and Zink said, and he almost took off the clock. It was great. It was so cool being a spectator. And he almost takes off the 24-second clock, and I heaved it. I nailed the clock. So I was heading for the basket. I had too much on it.
Well, I don't understand why they made you shoot from why couldn't you shoot from half court?
Because that was it. I don't know. I think they wanted to make
asking the celebrities to shoot from three.
I know.
Half court is still a pretty hard shot.
Yeah, I know. No, we went from the other. Was there a 3-point line back in the day?
Well, yeah, but there was a
3-point line.
You're the other 3-point line.
On the other 3-point line of the thing, and I shot and I threw.
Well, you look like you're throwing like a javelin or something.
Yeah, well, that's the way Charles Barkley told me. He said, "Go for it," and he was right. If I would have thrown, I would have been, because the audience loved it. Because when I hit that 24-second clock, people roared. It was like, yeah.
It would have been something if you broke the shot clock.
I know.
They couldn't come back for the second half or something.
Drummer for the Hooters knocks the thing off.
Yeah.
It'd been great.
So just a fun little shot of Dave showing his sports prowess. We don't talk about your athleticism on this podcast very often. Did you play sports as a kid?
I played in the neighborhood. We played baseball in the neighborhood.
Were you ever good enough?
Well, I was a pretty decent gymnast. I mean, I got a letter to go to West Point when I was in 10th grade, but I started playing music, but there was one of the pictures I was going to post of me on the gym team, and I started getting, and I'm competing like these little regional, I never was good enough to get to the States, but there's 3 guys from Westchester that was really Flieger. I still remember Flieger's name. There were, and Henderson was one of them, and there were 3 guys there that were like amazing, but I was a gymnast. I was the crazy gymnast. There's a great one day I can tell a story. I don't know. I experimented with LSD and I did a gym meet, and I was tripping and I.
It's just like Doc Ellis throwing a no hitter on LSD.
Right.
Okay.
I didn't know, and I actually took too much, and I was really tripping, and
shit.
And I was doing a gym routine, and I was doing a handstand, and I did this Japanese thing. I could do a handstand, open my hands up, and then roll out of it and do a backflip and back onto my hands. Apparently, the word has it, I was staring at the mat for a long time. Like just, whoa, things are spinning. And then I did it. And I remember walking back and Fred Lewis said to me, like, what the fuck was that?
Fred Lewis, the famous Wilson gymnastics coach. Yeah.
Yeah, Joey Lanzi was the only one that knew I was tripping.
Holy shit. That was worth 84 episodes to hear that story.
I was I was just such a wacky kid.
Yeah.
You still am.
You're still wacky.
Hopefully in a good way.
Yeah, so there's a little sidebar that I was not expecting. Okay.
I didn't expect to tell it, but podcasts bring out the weirdness in you.
Well, I love it. All right, so anyways, as we're talking about the Sixers, big game tonight, Sixers Jazz, best in the East, best in the West.
Oh, you used the Bozio picture.
Go Sixers. All right, so we're on to Dave sitting at Terry Bozio's drums.
Now, this is athletic.
Yeah, well, you said your comment on this when you sent me this picture was, I have no idea how he does it.
Just look at the pedals.
There's just drums everywhere. It just heads everywhere. And
just looking down there, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 on just the left foot, and then you're like, I don't know, 20 pedals, and then Bozio has all these great stuff. I saw him do this. That's John Good from DW sitting across from me. Terry wasn't there, so he said, "You want to go up in Terry's room?" So we went up in Terry's room. He said, "You want to sit behind the drums?" It was great. I went out there, and Terry, he did this performance at this cocktail party that DW had once, and he played so orchestral, beautifully playing. He would play musical. He was just phenomenal, man. I mean, just amazing, because he knows where everything is. He's got little wood, like you're not even seeing these little things up on the left that he's triggering with his feet. He's a freak of nature, that guy. An absolute freak of nature.
What venue is this? Do you remember?
This is at DW. This is at where they build the drums.
Okay, right. You did say that.
Yeah.
So for people, it's Dave sitting. The picture's from the back, so you can't.
Yeah.
So I can only imagine what your face is like.
My face is
you're
saying,
looking
"What
at all
the? What is this?"
Did you actually try to play it or not?
I did. Yeah. I mean, I could play. I could play what I play, but Terry plays. He's like he has even when he plays, he has this way of he's like almost a timp kind of style. The way he it's beautiful, man. He's just ridiculously great.
Love
that guy's playing.
Yeah, drummers need to see this picture.
I mean, I was sold. I remember he played on that Brecker Brothers records, because I love the trumpet, as you know, and I listened to the Brecker Brothers, and I went to see them years ago. And then when Terry played with them, my buddy Dan D'Souza at the time said, "You got to check out Terry with the Brecker Brothers, and man, the guy just grooves like a mother.
Yeah. So, all right. Next picture, Dave, is the Goldbergs' appearance. January.
Here we go.
January 17th.
This is great.
2018. The Hooters appear on the episode of the Goldbergs, and they dress you guys up to look like it's 1985 again. And you got the current.
We got
hair.
wigs.
You got
they went nuts, man. We were shocked. I thought it was going to be a real cheese ball. As weird as it looks, the wigs are really nice. And I was wearing these Bruno Mali shoes that I tried to walk out with. They wouldn't let me. They wouldn't let. I wanted to walk. I could have bought them. I don't even know if they could have sold it, but I offered to buy them. But they were like $800 or something ridiculous. But they found. And if you see the Goldbergs performance, anybody that's listening, at the very end, I spun my head, my wig. They have like little pins in to keep the wig on, and I spun my head. I guess I didn't realize I spun it so hard, and the wig spins sideways on my head. We're at the Wiltern Theater.
They kept that on in the episode. You can see it. Yeah,
you could see it flip. Yeah. There's only a little bit, but boy, what a fun day! And look at John and Eric. We all had the wigs on. And we all had our colors.
They put you back in yellow.
I love being in yellow, man. I was yellow. I dig it. Yellow's a thing now. It'll be like yellow has, I kind of dig it. It's just a fun day. We had just a great time.
I remember interviewing you for a story at the time when you guys appeared on that, and you said you had a great time hanging out with the cast. And
they were all so nice. Everybody on that show were just incredibly nice. The father, I forget the father's name.
Jeff Garland.
Jeff Garland has our records, and there was a couple guys had us on vinyl from the day.
Right.
He's like, I have One Way Home, and I have Nervous Night. Wow, we were like, wow, really? Yeah. He was like, I was a fan. It's cool. It's a nice feeling.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
All right, so now we got a photo of you, and I don't know when this was taken. This is you and your friend Manfred Mann.
Oh, if you got the Manfred picture.
Well, yeah.
There you go, Manfred. Everybody says, where's Manfred Mann? This is not too long ago. This is a few years ago. We play gigs. My buddy Robert Hart is the singer in Manfred Mann, and that's the legendary Manfred Mann from, do-a-diddy-diddy-dum-diddy-do. All that great stuff, man. Manfred, he's just.
How did you said you're friends with him. How did you meet?
Rob, I think Rob's become pretty, because they're both keyboard players. They chat about like gear, and he doesn't talk a lot. He'll come and sit with you at dinner when we're on tour. It becomes like because we just done a bunch of festivals together in Europe, and their band, we're all tight with those guys. Yeah. They're just really great English musicians that are, respect. They have just such incredible respect for one another, over the years, because they know how the ride is, and so it was really cool. Like Manfred is like you bow down to Manfred, man.
No, he's 80 years old.
Manfred. It's hard to believe because he looks great.
Yeah, so. Yeah, it's a good.
He's still at it, man. They're dying. Like I said, Robert Hart and I are good friends on Facebook, and he's dying to get back at it, man. Manfred Mann's band is killer.
Yeah, I didn't realize they were still.
Oh,
they're
still at it. They play a lot in Europe.
Okay.
They're like us. They play a lot in Europe.
Right. Yeah. Well,
and Jimmy, their drummer, was just the greatest drummer.
Get Manfred Mann on the podcast.
I'm going to try.
I'll give it a shot.
I'll give I don't know if maybe he'd do it. I'll ask him. I know Robert and I talked about it. I'll get Robert on. Robert's done all kinds of stuff, but it'd be great to get those guys on.
Yeah, that would be cool. Well, you got a huge smile in the picture. You're obviously.
I was very happy to be with Rob Manfred. Okay. Anytime around those guys, it's great.
Next picture is you and a Rock and Roll Hall of Famer. This is you and Jackson Brown hanging out backstage.
Yeah, well, this is because of Dallin. Dallin's pretty good friends with Jackson. Like that was a cool day, because Dallin and I went to a baseball game that day. And then we just said, hey, Jackson Brown's playing. And she knew some of the people on the crew. She put a call into them, and they got us tickets. And then we went down, and then Jackson invited Dallin and her guest, me, backstage. And Jackson, knew the Hooters. So we walked back, and I thought I was going to go to a big group of people hanging out. And I go backstage, and it's just me, David Lindley, Dallin, and Jackson Brown. And so David Lindley and I just chatted about ear, because David Lindley surprisingly did not use in-ears. And so he's asking me about my experiences with in-ears. I was telling him, man, you got to contact my buddy Marty Garcia, Future Sonic. He'll straighten you out. And he was asking me my experience, sonically with it. And I told him, like, because I have a real history with those guys, starting from when you couldn't have the ambience and all the kind of things that now you can get. But I was selling David Lindley on in-ears. But Jackson was just also gracious. I remember he gave he got these roses he gave to Dallin that were given to him. He said, why don't you take them home? And then, afterwards, Bob Glob was playing bass on that tour, so I was hanging with Bob afterwards, after I left his dressing room. They're legendary. Another one that's great. And
yeah, you weren't, Jackson wasn't moving in on Dallin, was he?
No, I don't know. No.
Okay, giving her roses. I don't know, Dave. I don't know.
Jackson.
I mean, you know how the ladies
the lady, they love Jackson. Even when Jackson starts playing Dr. Miles, the women go nuts. Yeah. They go like, it's great. We all do. It's like, he's great. I mean, what a band. Marcio, the drummer. Oh my God. Oh, they're so great. What an incredible feel.
Well, yeah. Dave had a lot more pictures that he sent over. I mean, he's the memories, the pictures, the scrapbook. It's immense. You're going to use all the pictures in the book when the book comes out someday.
Yes,
but we had to do a cut. We had to cut it off. So the last picture we have, and we had to end with a Philadelphia legend. This is at the Philadelphia Folk Festival in 2013
with Todd.
This is Dave with Todd Rundgren. And great night where Todd Rundgren sat in within the pocket.
Yeah,
you guys played Open Your Eyes.
Yeah, he said
Open
to me,
My Eyes.
My best thing about Todd that night. So he says to me right there, he goes, "What are we gonna play?" And I kind of run songs. I said, "How about Open My Eyes?" And he looked at me. He goes, "You guys know that?" And I said, "Yeah, we'll be all right." So we go up there, and I remember walking up stage, and he's got his arm around me. He goes, "That was easy."
Yeah, right.
And Jeffrey Gaines, God bless him, man. Jeffrey came in on the right spot on the second verse because we do it like as much as like the record we do it. That weird bridge, the breakdown section, the section 0202468. There's like a weird little thing that he does with the dun 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 dun, and Todd knows that that's like a train wreck area even for bands that rehearse it. But we did a good job with that day, and to have Todd, and then Todd inducted the Hooters into the Rock and Roll Hall of the Walk of Fame,
Philadelphia
in Philly,
Walk of Fame, right.
which was an honor.
Well,
his speech was a little kind of weird, but we were honored that he did it. He was cool.
Yeah, I just felt like it was a good picture to end on. It wasn't the most recent picture, but it was a good picture to end on because Todd is, he as you said, I mean, everybody in Philadelphia music owes a debt of gratitude to Todd. He's up for Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction again this year, or nominee again this year.
Oh, I hope he gets
He really deserves to get in. And the other thing I got to say about that performance of Open My Eyes, there's a video of it. And it's
on YouTube.
It's a video of In the Pocket.
Or you can go to In the Pocket website. You can
you get a video of Todd performing with the guys from In the Pocket at the Folk Festival, and just watching the faces of you and everybody in the band.
Right.
You got Ben Arnold, you got Richard Bush, and you got
Cliff's the best.
Ellis.
Cliff and Richard are the best.
Right, they're to the right of Todd, and they're watching them and the smiles.
Yeah.
And then you got Steve Butler and Greg Davis on the other side.
Rob was playing too.
And Rob was playing keys.
Yeah.
And it
was a good band.
Please, after you're done listening, look up In the Pocket, Todd Rundgren, Philadelphia Folk Festival. Find that video.
Gene Shea was there that day. The legend who did Rest in Peace was there that day.
Yeah, it's a great performance.
It was fun.
And a great kind of, all these great current Philadelphia musicians with the father of it all kind of thing.
Yeah.
It was very cool.
Todd just keeps on rolling, man. Maybe that's that Hawaii living, man. I don't know. He could,
Well, this was fun.
I
hope listeners.
I hope so. I hope they enjoy it.
If you did listen without seeing the pictures, I hope you still were able to get a sense. And again, all the pictures will be up on social media. And if you happen to see the video, you'll see the pictures as we talk about them. And Dave, I could hear you tell these stories all day, man.
Thank you.
What a life! And
thank you. Yeah, and you know what? I got to tell you, man. I'm so sorry. Hey, one quickly. I wanted to mention Jimmy Copley's name from Man for Man, the drummer, because I had a brain fart, and he's passed away. He was one of my favorite drummers on tour to be with and hang with. So I just wanted to mention Jimmy. Rest in peace, Jimmy. I feel really blessed to be healthy, feeling good. I'm recording a lot at home. I just did a great track with Billy Goodman, my buddy Billy, and I was excited about recording with Smash Palace with the guys in the studio on Saturday. Man, it's going to be fun. So I feel like there's still some stuff to do.
Oh, there's tons of stuff to do, man. You've been doing it for more than 50 years since you first sat down at the drums, and there's no reason to stop anytime soon. Yeah,
and if I leave the earth, and I want to do it from the drum set. Boom, gone. See ya. Bye.
All right. Well, this was fun. I hope the listeners enjoyed it. I want to thank Taylor for putting all the photos.
Thanks, Taylor. Good
all the
job.
photos together.
Great job.
Thanks to, as I said, our sponsors, Croker Percussion and School of Rock Main Line. Thanks, as always, to Wildfire Radio. We'll be back in 2 weeks, and we will have a guest again at that point.
Maybe Kenny.
Maybe we'll get Kenny Aaron. We will have Kenny Aaron off at some point because talk about a guy with some stories.
Oh, my God. I've had some good hangs with that guy.
Yeah, I'm sure
I've had some really good. I can't even, some of the nicknames I had for him, I can't even say. But he's amazing. What a beast of a drummer, too.
Absolutely.
Unbelievable.
All right. Well, thanks again for listening. Go Sixers.
Go Sixers, man.
And for Dave, I'm Andy. We'll see you next time on In the Pocket.